All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm out here. Hey, everybody, I'm out here at my town that I own out in Hudspeth County, Cornudas, Texas, enjoying a little sunset on the swing and kind of just wanted to riff. It's been a little bit since I recorded a video, especially on subdividing, so I kind of want to talk about what I learned subdividing land over the last 7 years. It was kind of off the cuff, what pops through my mind, and see what sort of value I can deliver. It's a little bit windy, so if you see the camera shaking, that's what's going on. With the mic cover and battle the wind here in West Texas, but it's crazy. It's been since 2017 now since I've done my first subdivision. Technically, my first subdivide was about 2 miles that way, off camera behind you, in Hudspeth County, where I bought 534 acres for $75 per acre. There's a good YouTube video I have on it, where I show how I just simply subdivided that whole thing up into, I believe it was 52 or 53 separate 10-acre lots. One guy came in and bought like 45 of them at once. And since then, it's just been scaling and growing, and now we just got done with a major subdivide, another major subdivide, and we have one under contract where we actually did an engineered water study for the first time. Looking back on it, there's so many different things I've learned, and just recently had a great learning experience. I think I got a little overconfident, and this recent subdivide we have going, we just got our first offer in today. Actually, we have 9 lots, and it's been about a month and a half, and we've now got one under contract. But on that one, I specifically learned that every time you go into a subdivision project, you got to do almost like a new market analysis. I call it the demand test on Facebook. And so on this particular project, I did not do a demand test, unfortunately, and we're having a lot of trouble selling it. And economic conditions have changed. This is October of 2024. The election's coming up, and things have slowed down in this county, and that's the feedback we're getting from all the realtors, is that sales have slowed because of the election, which I guess makes sense. So now every time I go into a new subdivision, it doesn't matter if I've done a project right down the street or whatever, we're doing new market testing, new market analysis to see if anything has changed, because you can't really predict if things have changed. Regulations could have changed in the county. There could be some macroeconomic thing going on, right? Maybe it's a war, or interest rates, or the economy, unemployment, politics. You can't really predict or tell these things, but what I can tell you is that they can change really quickly. In this case, it was less than a year. We did a project 2 miles away, and it sold like hotcakes. And now 8 months later, 10 months later, we're going to try to sell this land, and we're having a lot of trouble. So test every time you go into a new market. And also, I got to tell you, there's probably going to be quite a bit of beginners who watch this. Subdividing is kind of the new craze in real estate, especially in land. Everybody wants to subdivide, which makes sense because it's a great option to scale your business and to do it. You can do it as big as you want, really, tens of millions of dollars. But I got to tell you, you can't get FOMO, okay? One of the biggest, if not the biggest thing that I see beginners do wrong, newbies, so to speak, is they go in, they start, perhaps they've done some land deals before, but perhaps they're new to real estate altogether, and they come in, they say, man, you can subdivide and make a lot of money, and they go online, they start saying, well, I can just buy this piece right now for $5,000 an acre, and I could subdivide and sell it off for $10,000 an acre. Well, it's not that simple, okay? Most pieces online are listed online for a reason, because they're overpriced. Most pieces of land actually can't and shouldn't be developed. My point with this is that there's always going to be another deal, right? I call it FOMO, fear of missing out. You can't get FOMO because there's always going to be another deal. There's probably always going to be a better deal out there when you think about it. So going into this, not every piece, you can't subdivide every piece. I've learned that personally. There's been projects we've done that are better than others, and in particular, this one that we've done, it's near Abilene, Texas, here in the last couple months. I wouldn't have done that project if I had to do it over again. I wouldn't do it again. And so, you can't get FOMO. I think I got FOMO there because, like, man, I'm doing a project right down the road. This is going to sell so quick. We already have a bunch of customers potentially from the other one, leads. And so, there's so many deals out there, and you got to be picky. And not every piece of land is going to be able to be subdivided. Trust me, just because you see me or everyone else doing it online, it's not that easy. And that kind of brings me to my next point. What's the old adage? It's simple but not easy. I always get it backwards. Easy, not simple. Simple, not easy. Whatever it is, the premise of this whole subdivide game is to buy land in bulk, because when you buy in bulk, just like anything, you get a discount, right? Buying at like wholesale prices. 1,000 acres in a given area is going to cost less per acre than 500 acres in the same area, than 100 acres in the same area, than 10 acres, than 1 acre. So that's the whole premise of subdividing, is you're buying land in bulk and subdividing it down, making it more affordable for the masses. But that's almost easier said than done. And what I've learned and seen throughout the years coaching and teaching people is there is a lot of technical things that go into this. You got to call the county. You got to, take good notes. You got to be able to have a conversation. You got to be able to negotiate. There's a lot of things that go into this business. So if you think you're just going to come in and find a piece of land listed online or with a broker on the MLS and buy it and subdivide it and make a bunch of money, you're mistaken, right? And the main things that I think that are important for this business are attention to detail. You got to be technical. Me as an engineer, I'm very technical, and I've seen a lot of success with other engineers in this industry. But you don't have to be an engineer, but you certainly have to be technical. You have to be attentive to detail. You have to be patient, but you have to display perseverance, right? You got to be determined and motivated. You can't just sit back and not ask the right questions and think things are going to come to you, because they're not. You got to be able to pick up the phone, call the county, call the water companies, call the surveyor, talk to them, negotiate with them, reason with them, all that good stuff. And so this is really not for the faint of heart, in my opinion. You can make a lot of money doing it, and by all means, it is so much simpler than other businesses, right? Before I started my land business, actually, I was doing like little products. Like I had a drill bit mug, so I was an oil and gas. I was drilling engineer, so I had like a drill bit mug, a little drill bit pen, some t-shirts. I was trying to blog and do all these different things, oil and gas related, stock trading. There's so many things I tried doing, but land has been by far the easiest. With that being said, this is not a get rich quick scheme, right? I've been doing this 7 years now, over 20 subdivisions later, 25 actually. With the stuff that we got under contract and going right now. Over 25 subdivisions later, and over $20 million in sales, I've learned that this stuff takes effort, it takes time, it takes energy. It's not going to happen overnight. One land subdivision can change your life. We had the one Jazz Acres that really was like a $5 million deal that kind of took me to the next level. With that being said, one land subdivision can change your life, but this is really a long game, which you'll find as you hopefully get into this space and do your first subdivision, your second one, you do a major subdivision, you build some roads, all that good stuff. You'll figure out real quick that the people who really make money are in this for a long time. Over the last 7 years, I've seen a lot of people come and go. Too many people. I've also seen a lot of people who are still just flipping land, which that's their choice. By all means, subdividing is a little bit more complicated than just flipping a piece of land, going out and buying a piece of this desert out here in Hudspeth County for 10 grand and turning around and selling it for 20. Subdividing is harder than that for sure. And so I can't really fault some of those people for just flipping and keeping it simple, but I've seen a lot of people just come and go, not grow. And then I've seen some of us really stick to it and do bigger and bigger and bigger subdivides. Right now I have a $6 or $7 million deal, the one that we're doing a groundwater study on in Texas. I have a deal near a town in West Texas, right outside of city limits, really, that is going to be like a $2 million deal. And so when I start looking at that, it's like that seems like a small deal nowadays, $2 million. The one for 6 or 7, next week on Monday, we're going to see a deal near Dallas Fort Worth that has the potential to be a $10 to $15 million deal. And so as you stick with it, as you build more capital, more relationships, your deals are only going to grow in size, right? If you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, doing more, learning more, you can't help but grow. Like, it's crazy. If you're in this business, I hate to say it, if you're in this business and stay in this business, you can't not make money, I think. Of course, you can lose money, you can fail, you can mess up, but the longer you're in this business, I just don't see you not having success. But you got to stay in it, and you got to keep pushing. That's the big thing. So, over these last 7 years, I've kind of pushed myself outside my comfort zone and made it a point to learn more and more and more, especially outside of the land business, right? There's people like me who are coaching this business, but do you really want to learn like sales or cold calling from me? No, probably not. I didn't learn sales from any land person. I learned sales from, a Grant Cardone or, some sales expert. You probably don't want to learn marketing from me, really. I think I've gotten pretty good at like social media and branding and marketing, but I've learned marketing from some of the OGs, your Ty Lopez's, again, Grant Cardone, some of these bigger players in the social media space. And there's new ones nowadays that are really crushing it. So you got to really look outside of the land niche for learning, right? Broad market analysis is also super important. I remember one of my favorite podcasts was the Rich Dad radio show with Robert Kiyosaki, because he's having people come on talk about bonds, how the interest rates affect the bond market and the stock market, and the importance of gold and silver, and what the Fed is doing and all that stuff. And so I'm learning about this broad economic perspective and then applying it to land. I'm learning about video marketing and what needs to be above a landing page, above the fold on a landing page on a website, and applying it to my land business, right? Learning about psychology, reading about the DSM-5 or the Big Five or the Hexaco, and learning about psychology of buyers and sales and applying that to land. So all these different things that you gotta, if you really want to be in it for the long haul and grow, you got to look outside of the land niche to learn. It's super important. It's continual learning. And then the networking component, over the last 7 years, I have met a lot of people. It's important not to burn any bridges. Some relationships didn't work out, but most of them, honestly, did, and they continue growing. Investors, other land people, someone I can call to help me build a road or underwrite a deal. As a beginner, you really got to start branching out, going to meetups, start networking with other land investors. I'll never forget class of 2016, 2017, it really feels like, coming out of Land Geek and Land Academy in 2016, 2017, a lot of us subdividing and land flippers and land gurus have really been born out of those programs, and we all know each other and have grown to know each other over the years and speak at each other's events and whatnot. My friend Sumner Healy has an event coming up here in a week from today. We'll be in Vegas at his event. I'm speaking at that event. So I've got to really know a lot of these other land players, and I think you should too. You're not going to be successful alone. You can be. This is a business that, I'm not going to lie, really would allow you to sit on your butt and, kind of just act behind the scenes. But when you're dealing with these major and even minor subdivisions, it's even more important to network and raise money, get to know people, contractors, road builders, surveyors, investors particularly. Super important when you're trying to subdivide large pieces of land. I'm excited to be going on Dropping Bombs. My boy Brad Lee next Wednesday in 5 days. That's the sort of stuff I'm talking about. It's like networking and meeting people outside of the land niche, because heck, if I could get Brad to participate in a subdivision with me, or some of these big time social media influencers, like how much capital and how much power would that afford me in future subdivides, And so when you're subdividing, it's kind of a whole different ball game, and there's a lot that goes into it, but it's definitely very rewarding. It's allowed me to scale my business into the 8-figure range. You really, as a beginner, should be focusing on subdivisions that are small as small as you can. It's one thing I've learned myself. Back in 2017, I started small. I bought that 534 acres for 40 grand. And I was, shaking in my boots. I had to borrow some money from my dad to make that happen because I didn't have 40 grand cash laying around at the time. And so friends and family are a great spot to start, actually. And so he gave me money. I made over 200 grand on that deal, close to 250, and kind of just took my business to the next level. But you're going to have to start small. Don't come into this subdividing space, so to speak, and think that you're going to do $1 million deal right away. You could, but even if you have a ton of capital, I wouldn't really recommend that, right? You don't know what you're doing. You don't know anything, probably. You don't know how to work with counties. You've never probably had a piece of property surveyed before. Perhaps you've never sold a piece of land, and you think you're going to come in and buy $1 million hunk of dirt, break it up, and sell it for 3 or 4. It's not really practical because, as I said, there's a lot of things that go into this. Working with counties, regulators, surveyors, contractors, realtors, building relationships. So you got to start small. That's for sure. And I've started small even. And if I was going back and doing it again, honestly, I think this business is so scalable, but it requires a lot of capital. And so if I was going back and doing it again, I would start borrowing and using other people's money at a lot bigger scale sooner and giving up equity in deals. I utilized a lot of seller financing looking back on it, and I still love seller financing. Who wouldn't want to use a seller as a bank? But if I was going back on it and doing it again, I would start giving up equity in my deals at scale and doing larger subdivides, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million purchases. Because, if you gave up even 50, 60, even 70% of a deal, let's say you do a subdivision, you buy it for $5 million and you can sell it all for 12 and a half. And you find a investor or funder who's willing to front all the money up front, and you're going to pay them out first and take even 30% of the profit as a beginner. A $7.5 million profit, 30% of that is $2 million. So as a beginner, that's nothing to scoff at. But conversely to that, as a beginner, it is harder to raise money. I would recommend beginners not utilize debt, though. Instead, give up equity, because then you're not responsible for those payments. And what happens if the deal goes bad and you borrowed money and are paying interest, right? If you give up equity, something goes bad, the investor's going to take over the land and sell it, hopefully for a profit. So, it's been a good 7 years, and I'm excited to see what comes out of this in the next 3, 4, 5 years, because I feel like we're really hitting a tipping point with employees, hiring people, systems, processes, doing larger deals, investors, raising capital, about to start the first land fund. So I think the sky is the limit, and you just got to push the boulder up the hill, and then it rolls downhill, and smooth sailing from there, so to speak, hopefully. So 7 years, time flies when you're having fun, I guess. 7 years, 25 plus subdivisions later, and a town in the middle of the desert. We're about to take off and go to the Del City Fair. Today's Friday, tomorrow's Saturday. Del City Fair is taking place. Cornutus will be participating with a float and a vendor booth. So we'll be out there flipping burgers and passing out t-shirts and spreading the word. And then we'll go back to the office on Monday, look at more land, and try and find our next subdivision. So long week ahead, long weekend ahead, a lot of traveling, speaking. Just wanted to hop on, though, and share some thoughts and learning. It's been a while since I recorded a video. I had the juices flowing. So hopefully you found some value. If you have questions or subdivision candidates, prospects, want to pick my brain, hit me up in the DMs, any social media, really. Best of luck to y'all out there, and hope you find a monster deal.